gentlemen, maybe to begin with. I've read a little bit about both of you based on the, I guess, the bios on the PLP website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about yourself, but I'd like if you could describe one another to me rather than yourself.
That's interesting.
All right. Yeah, that is. I guess I'll go first.
You want to
Sure.
go first? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
From young, because I was 4 when my daddy first got elected House of Parliament. So from young, I've always seen him involved in politics, and not just in politics, but just in his personal life. Seeing him interact with different environments, whether it be church, come to school, being involved with school life, my brothers and I. It's always been there, always been around and having a presence with us. It's always been, I don't want to say hard on us, but definitely taught us the more good morals in life, and taught us, right from wrong, taught us to stand on our own feet, to always stand up for ourselves. So I can say, I'm thankful for those things, because those things has helped us, each one of my brothers and I, in our personal life, to succeed and get where we are so far. A lot of people, because I also have the same name as my father, and a lot of people say I look like him. Growing up, it was not pressure on me, but it was always, okay, your father's this, do you want to be this? But politics was always my own choice. From very young, I always wanted to be a politician, but it helped also seeing my father being involved with it. We all take our own different paths in life to get where we get. So it was always my goal and aim to be a politician. Just seeing how my father, he has his moral groundings, where he has kept him to in politics, because politics, as a lot of people say, it's a lot of unethical stuff and a lot of bad perceptions of politics. But I can always say that my father has always been a good example for me, which is also why I also wanted to follow his example when I got into politics. Well, now that I am into politics, but he's always set a good example for us to follow, and always encouraged us along our way. It was not a shock to him, but when I first put myself out there, he just made sure that I was comfortable and knew what I was getting to. But he always supported me, and as he is today, he's still here for me, supporting me today.
Dad, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I think Dennis hit it on the head in a sense, in that for all the boys, I've tried to play an active role in their lives. I think it's important for us that fathers do have an active involvement in the upbringing of their children. Hands down, that's must be a must for each and every father out there. So to hear my son relate the value that that had for him, seeing his father involved in his life, makes me feel like I've done something correct. And it holds up to the message that I like to preach, that fathers need to be involved in the lives of their children. So that's rewarding to hear him say it. Dennis has always been one who was able to evaluate a situation and make a decision for himself on it. I didn't have to, bring him kicking and screaming in the direction. I just had to let him know which was right or wrong, and allowing him to make his choice on it. And it's always been pretty positive of being able to make the right choice in that regard. For all humans, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a young person who was growing up, and I fortunately, when I grew up, my parents gave me the same latitude to be able to, here's what balance is, here's what sanity is, and always made sure I knew where that was, but allowed us the flexibility to make mistakes as children will. And I try to raise my children in that same regard, all he and his brothers, to let them know that this is where I would like for you to be, this is where I expect you to be in regard to that issue or this issue, but it's your choice. And you have to understand what the impact the choice is going to make in your life. So I think he's been blessed with being able to discern what's right and wrong when it comes to those choices, and he's made very good choices thus far in life. The choice to go into politics was purely his choice. As he said, he was 4 years old when I first entered politics, and his brothers have grown up all around politics like he has, but actively involved from, I guess, the time they could almost walk, in a sense. I always kept my family involved with what I was doing politically. They've been around all the activities of running campaigns, they've been around the activities of running the branches, they've been around the activities of being involved in the community and serving your community. So they've seen that firsthand. Dennis understands that. He understands that. So when he put his name forward to run in Warwick, I stepped back a bit, said, okay, Warwick is new territory in a sense for us, and that I can tell you the feeling and the flow of what happens in the West End in Somerset, but I'm not sure the dynamics in Warwick. But he had some things to his advantage, in that he knows how campaigns should run. He knows what needs to be done to reach out and touch people, because he's done that on the doorstep with not only myself, but with the rest of the Sands MPs. We've always worked as a team, and he's been part of that team behind the scenes. So I knew he knew it. I didn't know how well he knew it, put it that way. And the first time I went canvassing with him, I was expecting that I would go leading him through the neighborhood, knocking on the door and sort of introducing him. The first house we knocked on, after that I basically stepped back and said, you know what, this young man knows what he's doing. He's observed it for years, he's understood what I've done, he's understood what the other West End MP's done, because his work as far back as my senior MP is Mr. Roberts and things like Walter Roberts, his work with going back that far, he's been involved with the activity. So he took that skill that he'd seen and utilized it to his own personality on the doorstep. And that first neighborhood we were in, it was like, so as a father, I was extremely proud to see him being able to conduct himself as he did on the doorstep. I was proud of how he was received by the voters in that neighborhood. As I said, after the first house, I basically stepped back and let him take full control of what he was doing, introducing himself and leading his whole conversation to and fro with the voters. And it was extremely rewarding to see him in that exchange and see how the voters were so comfortable with having an open discussion with him, and him likewise being comfortable to go back in discussion with them. It was purely, I walked away that night saying he has been paying attention. He knew what he was doing on the doorstep. He wasn't out here by a fluke. He was out there for real.
I'm wondering, could you each tell me your ages?
You first.
I'm 59.
Okay.
31.
Okay. So there's roughly then 30 years between you gentlemen. I'm wondering, what do you think that age difference, what perspective does that give you that the other one might not have?
I can go first. You asked us our age. First, I'll just say this. It's, I want to say ironic, but not ironic, that we are both actually the same age when we were first elected.
Okay.
He was 31 when he was elected in 1989, and I was 31 when I was elected last week. The age perspective, in our household, I grew up, like I said, my brothers and I, and my father, even my mother, we all have political debates, whatever discussion that's going on in the country at the time. And having the input from my father as a more experienced, mature person versus my brothers and our younger, fresh ideas or look at it, having both helps. My brothers and I might get upset at something or be angry, and my father, if he's more experienced, is able to give it to us he cool us down and give it to us in a way where we can understand it. So that's just how it's been all our life. My father's been cool enough, level-headed to, in the most heated of times, give us his experience, give us his knowledge, and it's just been gracious enough that we've been able to take it on and use it to the best of our ability. Right now, in this political era with me being here now, my father has already told me, he's always there for the experience and the knowledge also. yes, I'm young, coming in, I have a lot of ideas, a lot of energy, want to do this, want to do that, but it all has to be curtailed and put in the right direction. So with his experience and those of others around me, experience is of great importance to help me going forward. So young people always feel like they know it all, but you know, we're not the first here, so there's always those that have been here, done before us, and it never hurts to have the experience of the older heads around us.
Well, he again touched on something that I lead off from. My house has always been a house of open discussion. I've said to you, I've made my house a part of my political life. So no matter what the issue was in the community, in the island, neighborhood, wherever it was, whatever the political topic of the day was, it was discussed in my home from Jump Street, so to speak, at all levels. And we've had some very heated debates in my house, I'll put it in that terms, because each of my sons are very opinionated in their own way. Each of them have their own perspective on life from a political viewpoint, and they're not afraid to bring that to a discussion at home. So having Dennis and his brothers in the house has helped to keep me grounded in a real way politically in the reality of different perspectives of how people view who we are politically. No matter what the issue is, I'm not void in my house to having that, meaning they'll readily hold me to task on an issue that I've taken or that the party's taken if they felt that we were off base. And so, Daddy, you know, you guys are going down here, and I understand you're taking a political road, but your misstep where people are in this perspective, or the young people are viewing it from this perspective, and you need to take that into consideration in the decision that you're making. So that's been part of our daily household conversation since I can remember, in a sense, with these guys.
Maybe that's a good jumping off then.
Mhm.
You described the heated
Sure.
debates. Can you point to maybe one issue or a couple of issues that have come up where you guys have been categorically differing in opinions, politically speaking?
The recent one would probably have been the marijuana issue. His view was totally different from mine, or not totally different, but we kind of from a totally different perspective on it. What we found after discussion and going back and forth, the common ground for us was trying to make life a little easier for persons who had found themselves on the wrong side of the law with a small quantity of marijuana, so that they wouldn't be put on stop lists. They wouldn't have a life chained to Bermuda because of something minor they had done years ago, which has been historic here in Bermuda. So we came to that common ground that here's what we're trying to achieve. His view was totally different from where I was, but that was for us a bridge that we could have in that discussion. But his view as a young person was totally different from where we started, in a sense.
Would it be fair to guess decriminalization or legalization and more traditional standpoint?
More traditional, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Question, if I may specifically. From my understanding, you're the third generation now of Listermen, I guess,
Mhm.
to be elected into politics.
So here's the real perspective to that question.
Okay.
Every general election since 1989, there have been at least 2 listers elected to Parliament.
Everyone since 1989.
Since 1989, there have been at least 2 listers in a general election.
Okay. Can you tell me, I mean, you mentioned earlier being as young as 4 and you know, that was the first year
Mhm.
Dad went out. Can you remember telling me when it was or what it was that for you triggered something in the head that said, you know what, this is going to be the path I want to pursue as well?
It wasn't nothing per se that I say triggered me, but from before the age of 10, I was always interested in history, in governments, and I was young. I always considered myself, you know, a little different from the average young person. I used to read books of history leaders. I used to read books of political leaders. So it was just something that was always in me. From young, I knew I wanted to be involved in politics. It's just something, rather it was the process of governing that I was interested in, the debating Some people might say arguing, but I like debating. I like arguing. That was just always my draw. As I got older, it was more of I did sway in my growing up years a little away from it, but as I got into my late teens, I sort of related to the story of Jonah, where Jonah had a purpose, but then he ran away from it, and he had to get swallowed in the belly of the whale for him to realize his purpose and come back. So everyone has a purpose in life. Some people figure it out early in life, some people never figure it out. Some people do everything they can to run away from it, they don't want it, but at some point when you do find out what your purpose is, you have to just get back on track and aim for it. And that's sort of what I say happened to me is I always knew what I wanted to do, but life and growing up, getting caught up in everything else, it took me away. But when I got into my later 20s, that's when I realized that what I had to get back on the path. A lot of it was also getting involved in civil work. In 2010, I first got appointed to the Road Safety Council, and being on the Road Safety Council and seeing how government service operates and works, it kept me on the path of wanting to do more. I served on the board for a number of years, being involved in the political arena in the PLP, being in the branch level, working on campaigns. All that was just step by step, which led me to ultimately to last week where I got elected. Again, it's just finding your purpose and just building a path towards your purpose.
So, next question for both of you.
Sure.
How do you feel about the notion of the family being something of a political dynasty, then, so to speak, in Bermuda? I mean, as you just said, there's been two Listermen on the ballot since 1989, third generation now of the family representing.
Well, I never like taking away the word dynasty. It's just a word that doesn't suit me.
Okay.
I look at what I do purely as public service. You know, I tell first and foremost, which is what I've tried to instill in my sons, is that this is about serving people. If you can see yourself serving people, this isn't for you, because that should be first and foremost. Those people who voted for you, those people who put their trust in you, they're expecting something in return, and that return is to you to be able to service them, whatever that may look like. Meaning, you don't know what an issue may be tomorrow for that particular family, and it may be something that is totally, unrelated to anything you're thinking, but to them it's the most important thing at that moment, and you have to be able to respond to it in that manner, understanding the need and the severity that they're feeling on that issue. That issue could be totally opposite to the issue that the next call comes in on, but you got to be able to respond in the same manner. It's about service to the community. So I don't like the term dynasty. My uncle was elected in '76, and again, when I was the age of my son, when I came back home early in the 80s, I came home and started working I had been involved in the branch before going off to college anyway. So when I came home, I just got more involved with working with the branch. I've been making myself available to assist what was going on in the community, what was going on politically in the community, and in other aspects of the community, which led me finding myself to be a candidate at that particular election when the time came. And later on, my brother came along, similarly, of the same mindset of service. So the three of us at that time were all in Parliament together, based on an ideal of service. My son now comes in and that same mindset, because it's been instilled in us that this is about service. It's not about any dynasty is the word you used there. I didn't like that term, but it's about understanding that if you're going to put yourself forward to be elected, you're putting yourself forward to serve. If you don't have the ability in you to serve, then don't put yourself forward.
Maybe a jump off from that.
Sure.
Okay.
From when you were first elected in 1989 to today, are the issues facing the island the same? What's permeated that time? What's new and different?
That's a good question. The response is yes and no. Meaning, as a local representative for that community, the issues that are always paramount are family issues that are affecting that doorstep at the moment. Those particular issues may change, but your response has to understand that it's significant to that family, that day, that moment, and you have to respond with that in that regard. Over the years, those issues fluctuate back and forth. Things that stay common are betterment for my children, meaning that family wants to know what we're doing, where the country is going, is a betterment for their child that's local, that's in their living room, that's doorstep. I want to be able to make sure that the policies that the government and where the country is leading is going to have a great impact, a positive impact on my future, my children. That's education, that's social. When you look at infrastructure, we want to make sure that the infrastructure of the country is the best it can be, whether it be roads and street lighting and the supply of those things, the improvement that's required to make those things flow properly. Those are coming, they change, but they stay coming, meaning throughout those years, those are issues that have come up. The specifics of it may change depending on the neighborhood you're in or the issue that may be requiring infrastructure upgrades in that neighborhood. But education, betterment of children, infrastructure, stay.
As a wider society?
Local and wider.
Yeah.
Local and wider, yes. The other piece is security, meaning life security, job security. What does future look for my family? Am I guaranteed, am I ensured that my family, I can continue to provide the lifestyle that my family requires? And I'm not saying lavish, but what we require in my own country. Can I see employment still in my own country? Can I see a future that says, I can still keep a roof over my head, I can still keep food on the table, I can still keep clothing on the back of my family? Those are staples that stay. No matter what year or time frame that's being, people want to know those things are there. And as a government, we have to understand that we have to always be seen to keep people comfortable on those type of basic issues. I can knock on a door in 1989, and I knock on a door today in 2017, and those things are coming in the family issue across the board.
So let's go back to last week,
Sure.
Tuesday night. A very decisive decision
Mhm.
from the people. I guess the question to both of you, was it surprising?
and okay, that let me go first.
Yeah.
In regards to the party overall, I wouldn't say it's surprising. The feeling in Bermuda and the atmosphere, myself getting out on this doorstep and talking to the constituents in my constituency, it wasn't surprising. What you heard, a lot of people said they wanted change, they were upset. So the overall victory wasn't surprising. Maybe the margin of victory was surprising, but the victory itself wasn't surprising. I can even say personally for myself, from day one of canvassing, I felt confident that I had a good chance of winning my seat if I knew I got out there and did the hard work. A lot of people say they are surprised by it. They thought it was an OVA stronghold, but again, being on the doorstep, hearing the concerns, hearing what the constituents had to say, I had a totally different feeling from what was going on there. So it wasn't a surprise to me in the overall election, and also in my own victory, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah. And I'll just follow on for that, Sanderman. As far as would there be a political change of government, the answer was yes. We knew that from the beginning, based on the atmosphere that we are finding on the doorstep, the atmosphere that we're finding up and down the country, that people were ready for a change. So that wasn't a surprise. The question was always, what would the margin look like? What would the margin look like? Would we barely get by, or would we get by with a fair margin of additional seats? My view was that we'll pick up a few additional seats. And for Dennis, made a real sort of change in my viewpoint from when I went down to work with him and talking to the people in the constituency and feeling how they were so ready for this change and ready to come out. The challenge was, can we get big numbers to come out? We got a high turnout of voters. You'll see the type of result we got. And the more and more he canvassed, and I didn't canvass with him much, I'll tell you that straight up, because I find him being so confident in his own, I left him to do what he had to do. And he had other persons with him. I like to acknowledge my brother played a big role in canvassing with him, and Terry brings all the experience that he has as a former MP to helping him on the doorstep. So he had that support with him. But as we talk to the people in the community, we find that persons who had stayed away from the polls, not only last election but previous elections, who just felt that they may not make a difference by coming to the poll in an area that wasn't traditionally in their favor as far as the outcome, has stayed away. But we were able to reach him enough, Dennis was able to reach him enough in his doorstep conversation to say that your vote counts. Your vote counts. And I need all of you to come out, not stay away as been tradition in the area, but if sufficient of you come out, you will see a different outcome. And he was coming to him on a regular basis saying, people just responded. He was knocking on doors of people who hadn't voted for a few elections. And they're saying, we're coming out and we're voting for you. We're coming out and we're voting for you. And that was going on night after night, night after night, night after night. So from those looking outside and not understanding what was going on inside, they saw it as a shock and surprise. For those who were inside, responding to what was happening on the doorstep and understanding what was happening on the doorstep, it looked like a real possibility.
And I think that's an interesting segue too. Taking it from the doorstep and constituents to priorities. So I'm wondering, now that the PLP has been elected in its power, what needs to be the party's top priority?
Well, right now we sit 8 weeks before school opens, and one of the priorities is making sure that the issue of that dragged through the last administration about condition of school, we have to be on top of that so that when schools open up, people are feeling comfortable sending their children to school, to the environment at the school. And I stress that, meaning if you listen to our campaign during the election, when we spoke about education, we spoke about curriculum, we spoke about physical plant, we spoke about other pieces of that make the whole pie function. All of those things can be fixed in this short period of time. Let's accept that. But one of the key pieces was what health environment is, what's the condition of the health environment of our schools. We need to make people feel comfortable come opening of school year that the health environment is up to standard, that you can feel comfortable sending your children there. So I see that as one of the priorities. And I think our government and the new Minister of Works and education understand that that's a key piece. We want parents to feel that their children are not being sent to a sick environment for school. So we'll be on top of that. The other pieces are making sure that people feel comfortable that we can turn around the tide as far as where the financial status of the country is going. The debt was increasing, the issues of keeping us stable, all of that is always a priority in any government environment. If you want to keep people at peace, keep people feeling that you're in touch with what has to be done, what's significant. So that's a major step as well that we have to take. The others are addressing, some of the common things, infrastructure needs, things like that. Making sure that the social programs are in place to keep comfort with our seniors, to keep comfort with those families that are really in need and challenged. The needs for young mothers, and they're raising their children. All those are social issues that fall into a package that says if we address these right, we address the needs of our people.
I do also want to piggyback off what my father said. Education, the infrastructure, the curriculum-wise, that should be number one. As a young person myself, the young people, they are our future. We have to educate them. I stressed throughout my whole campaign with the young people is that we have to educate them so that they have a better opportunities when they graduate, so that when they go away, the more opportunities out there, the more that they can choose, the more they can learn, so that when they do finish school, they can come back and input that back into our society. So education, number one, should be first. For myself, I believe as a newcomer, beginner, to focus locally in my constituency. Throughout my campaign and canvassing, I heard a lot of different issues in the local constituency, whether it's road work, whether it was street lights, whether it was bus stops. So for myself, first as a newcomer to focus on getting issues in my constituency fixed and addressed, and then on a national level to just assist where it's necessary with the ministers and the rest of the other MPs. I'm here as a young person, watch and learn, gain experience. As your first question said, or earlier question, gain experience from the older heads. And when it's the right time or my chance to step forward, then I can step forward. But I'm just here to watch and learn.
Final question to both of you.
Okay.
Can you tell me something about the other that most people might not know?
That's an interesting one.
I can say from my father. We have a house on the water side. He was swimming during the summertime, and when it's warmer before winter, he likes to go swimming most every day if possible he can. He finds that it's time to relax, to catch himself, just to rejuvenate. So we usually call people like that a water rat, but he's a water rat, I guess I can say.
Yeah. Dennis sort of touched on it earlier. He said as a child how much he liked to read. And I think that's still characteristic of his today. He likes his quiet time where he can, you find him often with reading or researching stuff, And I don't know if many people know that, but I see it as a quality that has value to you. Because if we're going to expand our knowledge, we've got to read, we've got to stay on top of what's happening around us and the history that got us to where we are. So I'm always encouraged to see, him wanting to read and researching and stuff. So, yeah, that's a positive for him.